Welcome to the Side Action Podcast, the sports gambling show that covers everything in the world of sports betting from A through Z. We'll cover the four major sports, as well as anything and everything in between worth some action, and will increase the size of your bankroll. And here we go.
Side Action, episode 100. Action 100.
Woohoo! I forgot the fireworks.
It was one season 4, dude. We made it.
Yeah, incredible that we made it to triple-digit episodes, I think.
We still haven't figured out how to seamlessly work Skype and the podcast software. But so anyway, for our new listeners, my name is Jim Weglars, aka Wegs. You can follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
And I'm Steve Roberts, aka Action. You can follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
Follow the podcast at Side Action Pod on Twitter. So, Action, I mean, it's been a while. Like, I haven't been talking to you. I just see that you're, like, on boats and doing stuff. You've been traveling. I mean, you're the man. Yeah,
it's been a whirlwind summer. We've been traveling all over the place, and then acquired a watercraft around here in southeast Michigan. So we've been doing tours of different lakes and checking out the county here. It's been fun. I know that you've been busy, too, though, on the volleyball beaches of Chicago.
I have. As you can see, the tan is here. We have a new Side Action Pod listener in a blow-up dinosaur, Tyrannosaurus Rex named Kevin. I had a big battle for him. As if you follow the blog and also the Instagram posts, I kind of won this dinosaur for a week, took him all over Chicago. He's become a big hit. You can follow him at Kevin's Day Out on Instagram. He's become a darling of the volleyball community. And now next year, I think we're going to have a whole tournament based on Kevin, not just a match. This was a match one where I had to wear a shark costume for half the time. So, I've been doing lots of crazy stuff. I haven't gone out of town that much. I did go to my Wisconsin trip, but for the most part, just goofing around on the beaches here, getting in good shape, and, everywhere. Like, normally what's happening now is play volleyball, Friday play volleyball, go to margaritas at Fiesta Mexicana down the street here, and then hitting karaoke late night. I mean, I've been having a good time here, actually.
That all sounds like a great preparation for what is the penultimate summer event, which is the trip to Vegas.
That's right. We'll talk more about it later, but absolutely, we got the big trip. It's our third annual trip out there. We kept it going even with COVID last year, so pretty excited. We've got a couple more guys joining us. We'll talk more at the end, but we still have more people if you want to come. We've got space in the cabana. We'll talk about that before the podcast, so we're looking to set it off there at Circa Stadium Swim on Saturday, the 11th, but we'll also be there for Sunday, the 12th, for the kickoff of the NFL season. So really excited to jump back into it. Actually, I mean, obviously I haven't gotten into the rhythm of doing the podcast every week again, which we'll start doing, but this is obviously our kickoff, kind of our NFL preview edition. It's a little bit earlier in the week than we normally tape. I'm assuming we'll probably still stick to that Thursday format going forward, right?
Yeah, I think Thursday nights works out best for the contest because we get those lines that come out Thursday afternoon. We can chat about them hot off the press and then give us a little lead into the weekend where we finalize those picks on Saturdays.
That's right. And what Action's alluding to for our new listeners is every week for the football season, we enter in the Circa contest. That's the reason why we go to Vegas every year. We're entering the Circa Million. Tip down your hat, Action. He had the Circa Million 2 hat, hasn't taken off the sticker. It's still fresh. I have the Circa 1 hat in the other room. I should have put it on for you, Action. But we basically enter in. We have to pick 5 picks against the spread that's given a static line on Thursday by Circa. And then we compete against, last year it was 3,500 people or 3,200. I expect more this year to try to win the Cheddar, the $1 million. Hopefully they pay a little more than 50 slots than last year. I think we came in 600th, which isn't bad. But we figure we got to be about 60%, at least 62% maybe to actually win some money. To win the title, you probably have to be about 70%. But this podcast, we will talk about the NFL every week and some metrics, but specifically our picks for the contest.
Yeah, I think you and I in the years past had talked a little bit about college football during this part of the season as well. And I think that just like last year, we may forego the college football and really focus our efforts on these NFL picks because we want to try and cash this Circa Million contest.
That's right. We're closer, and also with the Circa contest, for those that don't know it, you can also win on a quarterly basis. We'll see how that's broken out this year. We'll talk a little bit about the changes in the NFL in a minute, but there's usually a month-by-month contest that you can enter. So let's say you have a hot month, you can win some money. I mean, $100 grand or something. I'll take $100 grand, won't you, Action?
Yeah, it looks like they're going to pay out first through third place this year in the quarters, as well as a quarter booby prize for last place. So more opportunities for us to win cash on those quarter polls.
Oh, that's excellent. So you can, they have the booby prize for the main one, which I think they won. Was it 25 G's? What was the booby prize last year? It was a lot of money.
I don't remember last year's prize, but I'm scrolling through the website here, and last place this season pays out $100,000.
100K. So that's it. You take the contrarian approach where you try to pick against it every week. But honestly, when I tracked the totals last year, the difference between the booby prize and the top wasn't that far, because it's actually hard to go 0-5 every week. We've done it in America, sorry. But we've also been 5-0 too. So it's fascinating. So. And just in case you guys are new listeners, there's the ambulance that comes by every 30 minutes here at the Edgewater studio. It's a staple of the Side Action podcast.
As we wait.
There it is. This is live podcast taping right now, and they're not coming for me. Don't worry.
Well, it's good to hear that the Edgewater residents are kept safe with all of the ambulances that are flying around.
We're definitely safe. I feel like if there was a fire here, I would be taken care of quickly. So I think we're good for another.
The other thing I wanted to point different this year is that owner of Circa Sports, Derek J. Stevens of Detroit's own, has guaranteed that the prize pool will be up to $4 million this year, which is $1 million more than last year. And essentially that means that they have to get up to 4,000 entries to make it a break-even proposition for the owner. And any number of entries that are below that threshold of 4,000 will make it an overlay and essentially increase your and my odds of taking home some cash.
Right. Now, we obviously are the biggest promoter of the Circa Million across America. We talk about it all the time, but you can still enter. You have up until the 11th to enter. You have to fly out there in person and enter the contest. We actually have a great proxy. He's my brother-in-law. What's his company name now? WJW Enterprises or something?
Yeah. LLC.
LLC. But you have to have a proxy if you're not living in the state of Nevada, because you have to actually put in the picks every week from the state. You can use the app, but you can't do it out of state like many of the other apps that you use across America. So. Well, that's a little transition. That's what they say in the business action. I've been practicing that for weeks. Let's talk about some of these changes across the states. It looks like, we started this podcast, I don't know, I guess it's been 3 years now, right?
Yeah.
Crazy. There were, minimal states that were legal. In fact, there was just one or maybe two when we first started this podcast. We talked about the opening in other states. Now we've got 22 plus states that have legalized betting across it.
Yeah, and it's come quite a long way. I think by the end of this year, they're expecting more than half of the U.S. will be able to take legal bets. And those do wide range between a few states that only have brick and mortar locations. There's a few that have like one mobile option. And then there's states like Michigan who have like a dozen different operators that can all do mobile. They all have casino sports books. So there's just a lot to choose from in some states like Michigan.
Yeah, it's good to have the outs. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later in other podcasts or other episodes. Having more outs is always a good idea. Action's a big proponent of that. I don't have enough money to spread around like Action. He's got Cheddar and all these different casinos, but it's still good to have options. I know that Illinois has had some issues where you had to, there was some, not bullying, but the legislators really wanted to help the local operators more, and so they made it very hard for FanDuel and DraftKings to get physical books in the state and changed the rules where people had to sign up in person down in God knows where in Illinois. So I'm still a Rivers guy right now, but it depends on that. You also have a note here, welcome Canada. So what does this mean?
Yeah, just earlier this week, actually I think it was Friday, the Canadian government passed legislation that will allow single game wagering in any of the provinces. They are, much like in the U.S., they are pushing the authority down to each of the Canadian provinces to choose how they operate their own gambling systems. But before this new legislature in Canada, Canadians could only have the option to do up to 2 minimum bets as a parlay. They could obviously choose more, but there was no single game wagering in Canada until just late last week. So another big domino to fall in the industry.
Now, are you going to get across to Windsor and put some bets in over there just to see what happens?
Perhaps, yeah. I mean, the border's been closed since early pandemic, so at least for leisure travel. So we'll see if that opens up. I do like to get over and check out the Caesar Sportsbook there in Canada.
That's awesome. The last thing I saw that came across Twitter today, Adam Schefter tweeted this out, that the NFL partnership with the casinos has been finalized or is going to be finalized between Fox Bet, BetMGM, PointsBet, and WynnBet. These are the approved sports operators for the 2021 season. I'm not exactly sure what that means, but maybe that means in-stadium experience, or perhaps they're going to be sharing their lines on telecasts, or also maybe across, the boards or something when you go to, scoreboards. So I don't know if you have any more ideas on that, but those are the approved ones.
No, I did see the headline, but haven't had a chance to dive into it myself.
Right. Okay, well, this episode is principally talking about the NFL this season. We'll go division by division, outlining both, the odds and the win totals, maybe some bets that we like, but also eventually we'll get to picks for the Super Bowl and each conference championship. So on the format, what we'll do is we'll lay out the odds for each team, essentially win totals, both on the win totals, and we'll do division odds, AFC or NFC odds, and then the title odds. And then, I'll comment on some that I like. I'm sure Action already has money on some of these, so I know he's way ahead of me when it comes to these things. So let's start in the AFC. We'll start at the top. AFC East, the Bills. This is probably the best team in the division. They won the division last year. Their total is 11 wins. I mean, that's a big total. So they're minus 150 to win the AFC East, plus 550 in the AFC, and plus 1,200 to win the title. I believe they're right up there with Baltimore in terms of the second team. I guess the second team to win the AFC for the odds. I personally like the plus 550 to win the AFC with the Bills. I haven't picked them, but I do like this team. I think that they definitely have, it's an okay division, whereas like the Ravens have a loaded division, and the AFC West is pretty good. So I like those odds for them to win the AFC, and I'll definitely put some money on that. Yeah,
I mean, if you read the reports from preseason, you would think that Josh Allen had an all-star career just from those 3 games. The whole NFL world is buzzing about how Josh Allen and the Bills are going to be just as good or even better than last year. But the thing that gives me pause is just the fact that they won that division. Now they're going to be playing the top-tier schedule. And
that's true.
I know that makes a huge difference going into a year after a positive year for a lot of these NFL teams. They take a step up in class across all of the other divisions in the AFC as well as in the NFC. And so I probably wouldn't be looking at a win total with Buffalo, but they're certainly deserving favorite in the East, no doubt.
Right. The next 2 teams have the same projected win total and division odds, and that's the Dolphins and the Patriots. 9.5 wins for the Dolphins and Patriots here, and then you've got plus 300 to win the division. Both are at plus 1,600 to win the AFC, and the Patriots have actually a better odds to win the title at plus 3,000, whereas the Dolphins are plus 3,300. I'm a little surprised at this. I think the Patriots, last year I was on board with, hey, Belichick can take this team from the Brady era forward. They fell on their face. I know that Cam Newton, this whole weird COVID stuff, and he's back. Mac Jones is kind of in a mix, may start. I still don't have a lot of faith. I think 9.5 is a big total. I go under that total personally. I don't know if you have any thoughts on either of these 2 teams.
Well, before we continue on with the win total discussion, I'd like to remind our listeners, if you haven't heard, the NFL is playing 17 games this year, which is going to be new for the season. So as you're evaluating these win totals, you have to keep in mind that there's an extra game. So 8-8 is no longer going to be a thing. They're either going to be 9-8 or 8-9, those middle of the pack teams, as well as teams like Kansas City near the top could have an opportunity for an additional win there. So I understand your point on the Patriots. I will ask you, though, if Cam Newton is really going to be the starter. I'm reading reports that Bill Belichick still hasn't named a starter, and it sounds like Mac Jones could be a real possibility. Do you have any thoughts on that move?
I know that Mac Jones is going to start most of the games this year. I think that if there was a prop on that, I would probably take it if it's, plus 7 games or something. It's really interesting. I actually thought last week when all that stuff happened with the COVID thing, there was a little Belichickery going on where he was, Cam couldn't come back in the building for a few days and all that. I do think they probably, obviously Mac Jones is a more prototypical pocket passer, but, Cam's obviously been an MVP in this league. So either way, I don't think either of those guys, they don't scare me, I guess is what I'm saying. I don't think it makes a difference in the win total to me. I don't think this team's that great. I've looked at their team top to bottom. I still don't like their receivers. They've got some injuries at tight end, even though they made those acquisitions in the offseason with Jonnu Smith and Hunter Henry. They just shipped off Sony Michel. They got, the one running back there, Damian Harris, I think. I don't know. I just don't like it. I don't think they've got maybe an easier schedule than the Bills, but 10 wins seems like a big total. And I'd like to see Mac Jones start. I think he's probably a little bit better than Cam in that system.
What do you think about defensively this year? If you recall, 2 seasons ago, this Patriots defense was like otherworldly in opponent scoring. And then last season, a lot of their starters opted out due to COVID. So I think they're going to be back full strength this year. And defensively, I think, is where this team is going to win football games.
Okay. We'll see, action. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe I've soured on them after last season and they just kind of threw in the towel. But you're probably right. They'll be better on defense. But I don't know if defense wins the way it used to in this league. But, we'll see.
Valid.
Let's jump to we kind of glazed over the Dolphins. I like this team. Initially when I did my projections, I had them winning the division. I think they have an easier schedule than the Bills. You pointed that out. I don't know if I'd go over 9.5, but they're going to be a really good football team. And, obviously Tua, maybe he's not so great. He's okay, but I think that Flores is a great coach, so
yeah,
look forward to that.
Yeah, I think watching Tua the first couple of weeks is going to be key for me because last year, if you recall, he was really more of a game manager. And I think for the Dolphins to take that next step, you're going to need to see Tua actually become an NFL quarterback, not just a manager.
Right, agreed. They've got Jalen Waddle as their, playmaker now and everything, but you're right. They've got to play better on the offensive side. And then the last team in the division is the Jets. The Jets. So 6 wins is their projected win total, plus 2,500 for the division. That's a long shot. Plus 5,000 for the AFC and plus 10,000 for the title. Robert Saleh's team, who he has already had a rough go. He's already lost a key free agent acquisition with an Achilles tear that they just signed up somebody today to try to replace that. I don't know. That defense it'll be okay. But I've heard really good things about Zach Wilson in camp. So this win total might be right on the money or a little. I was pretty low on them in my projection for my article, but the Jets are still going to be struggling, I think.
Yeah, I do think I like the new head coach hire, Robert Saleh from San Francisco. I think I've been reading that the players really love him in the locker room too, which is will go a long way. And I also am intrigued by Zach Wilson. I'm not sure that I'm going to be lining up to bet the Jets early on in the season, but I think as the season goes on, this could be a bet on team and some key underdog spots.
No, I agree with you. I think that he's got some ability to definitely get within the numbers that we usually see against, poor teams. Okay, and there's no other bets in this division that you have taken or like in terms of futures?
No, not in the East.
Okay. Well, let's move to the AFC North. I think this is Action's new favorite division given his picks, but the Ravens are the top of the line here. 11 wins for the total, that's a lot. Plus 120 to win the division, plus 650 for the AFC, and plus 1,400 for the title. Obviously, they're a team you like, a little foreshadowing there. I do like them a lot. I think, obviously, I think Jackson's going to take a little step forward. But, they did lose J.K. Dobbins just a couple days ago. That's a big loss. They haven't reloaded anymore, so Gus Edwards is the guy. But I know you probably love their defense.
Yeah, it's the defense for me, too. Here, last year they slipped down to top 9 and defensive DVOA, but I expect that they're going to be back this year. And really, it's John Harbaugh, too. The coach of the Ravens has been astronomical. They just won their 20th preseason game in a row. Wags, I don't know if you heard.
I did. I know. I was like, we should be doing the podcast because Action would have bet on them in the preseason.
Yeah, I made some money on the Ravens this preseason, but ultimately that's not going to win much in January and February. And I hope that the quarterback position, Lamar Jackson, has a little bit of a bounce back year. Last year was a down year for him after the MVP campaign the season before. And I'll be interested to see how they hold up on the offensive side of the ball now without J.K. Dobbins.
Right. I like this team. I've always liked Harbaugh. I think they're really good. I know I'm crazy for saying this, and Mikey would love this. I think the next team, it could be the year. It sounds like it's weird that the Browns could win this division, but their 10.5 win total is projected, plus 145 for the division, plus 750 for the AFC, and plus 1,600 for the title. I think that they turned a corner last year, and they won a playoff game against Pittsburgh. They probably should have beat the Chiefs last year with going down. I think that, what's the dude's name outside? Myles Garrett is going to have the year this year. He's going to be the man. And the offense seemed, Stefanski was great as a coach. So I like them. I like them also at plus 750 to win the AFC. They're not my AFC winner, but I like this number because I think they have all the pieces to do it.
What do you feel about Baker Mayfield? Do you think that he's going to take a step up, or what's your position on Baker?
I guess for me, I don't know if he's going to take a step up. I don't think he needs to. But getting Beckham back in the fold, he's going to have all his weapons at his disposal. I don't think he could take a step back. And to me, they were probably 3 or 4 plays away from going to the AFC Championship game last year, and they probably should have done it. So my feeling with teams, especially young teams on the come, they just need one more step. And so what is that step? It's probably the defense playing a little bit better, and I think they will get there. But so it's not really about Baker ascending. But again, Lamar Jackson hasn't done in the playoffs. I don't show me it. Show me when he's going to do it. I love him regular season. He's the human highlight reel, but he's got to show me something to take them to the Super Bowl, or at least the AFC Championship game, which he hasn't done in 2 years so far.
Yeah, you did see them address some of their needs defensively in the offseason too. That especially in the secondary, I think that you saw them in a ton of high-scoring games, and now they've got a rookie Greg Newsome and a couple of new cornerbacks as well in that secondary. So I agree with you. I think the Browns' defense is their area to improve.
Right. And then the Steelers are 8.5 win total projected, plus 450 on the division, plus 2,200 for AFC, plus 4,000 for the title. I'm not anti-Steelers. I think that doing Najee Harris was a good move, but their offensive line is still a little suspect. Ben is a statue. We know that. But the defense was so good last year. They did lose Bud Dupree. But I think that they're going to be right there with the defense. Problem is this division is loaded. So 8.5 is probably right on the win total they're going to be at, 9 or 10 maybe. I think I have them in the playoffs in my projection, but they could just as easily fall out of the playoffs. Any thoughts on the Steelers?
Yeah, I expect their defense to be really good again. I'm not sure that they'll be able to replicate that number 1 ranked defense from last season, but TJ Watt and Mika Fitzpatrick are certainly players that can keep them there in the upper echelon. My concern is at the quarterback position. Big Ben is now another year older, and he's clearly shown lately that he isn't quite as durable as he used to be. And if he goes down, their offensive season is going to go down with it. I'm not sure that Dwayne Haskins is the answer at backup quarterback.
Right. And last year, we'll see. I was, as the season went on, I think they started, 11-0 last year. As the season went on, when they were throwing the ball 50 times and they were throwing these 4-yard outs or 4-yard ins every time, it was frustrating. So getting Najee is great, but can they actually block? And that offensive line really wasn't addressed. They lost Pouncey. And so we'll see. I still think they've got enough to make the playoffs, but I don't like them better than the other 2 teams.
Right.
And then the Bengals, so here's an interesting one. So the 6.5 point win total, 6.5 win total, plus 2,200 on the division, plus 5,500 on the AFC, and plus 10,000 for the title. When I look at their schedule, I don't like the 6.5. I actually like under the 6.5 wins. But like you said, that means this team's going to lose what, like 11 games? I mean, or 10 games, I guess. No, 11 games. Mm-hmm. 11 games. That's a lot of games for this team to lose. I mean, Burrow's back. He's obviously going to be coming off the ACL. They did get a great receiver in Jamar Chase. Thought they should have taken the left tackle there. But they can do some shootouts too. I just wish this team wasn't in this division. Otherwise, I think they would get that 6.5 wins.
Yeah, I'm not sure that Jamar Chase is really the answer for them. I read reports all across preseason that he's having some drop issues, which is never good. And defensively is really the question mark in my mind in this team. I'm not sure that their defense is capable of holding up against the division. So I'm going to be passing on the win total, but certainly a team that I think we could put in the fade list, at least early on in the season, see how Joe Burrow comes back from that injury as well.
Right. Okay, well, let's move to AFC South now. We've got the Titans at the top with the Colts with the 9 wins projected total for both teams, although the Titans are the division favorite at -106. The Titans are at plus 1,300 for the AFC and plus 2,800 for the title. The Colts are plus 140 on the division and plus 1,600 for the AFC, plus 2,500 for the title. That's kind of interesting. They're inverted there. Interesting. When I did my article, I was definitely down on the Colts. I still am a little bit. I know for America knows that Action loves the Colts. He's got a Colts jersey underneath his shirt there. But I still think the Titans are the best team in the division for a couple of reasons. They did address the defense more. We know what they have on offense. They got Julio Jones. The Colts out and got Wentz, which seemed great. Immediately he gets hurt. Quentin Nelson gets hurt. They're both back. They're going to play. It just doesn't feel great. Plus, isn't T.Y. Hilton hurt now?
I haven't read that. No, I'm not sure.
He got hurt as well. I thought that he got hurt, which opens the door for Pittman. Right. So, I mean, are you going to tell me to take the Colts here in this division? I still like the Titans.
I mean, I think that there's value, to be honest, if you can get the Colts at plus money odds currently. I mean, when Wentz went down, you certainly could have grabbed a much higher number than plus 140. So it's hard for me to sit here and say that taking 140 today is a good move. I do think, though, looking at the early season schedule for the Colts, that if you want to bet them to win this division, you should wait, because early on in the season, they have some tough games on the schedule, and I think Tennessee is going to get out to a little bit of a lead, and then you could get the Colts at a much higher number. But I think that Tennessee's a vulnerable favorite. I don't believe in the defense, and I think that there's a strong chance that their offense is going to regress this season too. Derrick Henry is a beast of a running back, and he's put up numbers and carries like no one has ever seen before, but historically, when you see running backs that put those many touches on their bodies season after season, and year 4, they're going to break down. So I put it as a decent chance that Derrick Henry breaks down this year.
I totally agree with you. It's funny because, a little fantasy talk here in the big, 14-team league that I play in with, all the guys Schwa, our buddy, took Derrick Henry 1 overall. I couldn't believe it. He jumped McCaffrey and Cook. And I kind of said the same thing. Don't you think he's going to break down? I mean, 2,000-yard season, and and I don't want him to, because I love the guy. Plus, he's a vegan, but I am, but I support those guys. So I hear you, but I don't know. We'll see. I think that the addition of Julio helps a lot, and definitely a better playmaker than, say, Corey Davis. But the Colts defense is better. They are definitely the better defense, no question. Let's get to the bottom of this division. The Jags obviously have Urban Meyer now as coach. 6.5 win total, plus 750 to win the division, plus 5,000 for the AFC, plus 10,000 for the title. Action's already bet the Jags under 5.5. Good. Plus 140. Good for you. But actually, that's a little bit. You wish you got 6.5, I suppose.
Well, yeah. I mean, I was looking for alternate lines. 6.5, I think probably would have had to lay a little bit of juice, but at Bet Rivers they have some alt win totals, and so I saw that plus 140. To be honest with you, I think I may have told you I also have a bet on the Jags to win the division at plus 1,200 in the off season, just because I thought that Trevor Lawrence could, paired with Urban Meyer, could be a solid marriage. But after watching 3 weeks of the preseason, I'm not sure that offensive line could protect anyone. And I don't think that Trevor Lawrence is going to have a good season behind that line. So that's why I kind of flipped and laid this alt under.
When they lost Etienne, who was a playmaker for them, rookie that didn't get to the field. James Robinson's a solid player, but not quite the same, speed category. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting thing. They're going to be better than last year, of course.
Yeah.
And you've got Lawrence, but can you protect him? And the defense is just okay. Let's get to the dumpster fire, though, in the Texans. So the Texans' win total is 4, plus 3,000 for the division, plus 10,000 for the AFC, plus 30,000 for the title. Obviously, they think this is the worst team in the NFL. I tend to agree. I do like the under the 4 wins, which really means, America, that means they're going to lose 13 games, which is hard to do. But you're saying Bet Rivers has at 3.5 plus 140. This has been a coaching change too, David Culley, and it's just been a disaster in Houston. I mean, obviously we know Watson has the allegations with all the massage parlor stuff and whatever, but beyond that, I mean, their roster is garbage, and I just don't see this team winning a lot of games. They certainly could win some games, the NFL, but all the team's bad.
Yeah, I mean, I was reading up on the Deshaun Watson saga today, and I haven't been following it for good reason, but it doesn't sound like they're going to even allow him to suit up on any game day this season. So you can essentially cross him off the team. And now it appears that, I forget his name, journeyman quarterback of the Bills and the Chargers is going to be under center in week 1. And,
Tyrod Taylor.
Yes, Tyrod Taylor, thank you. And that's really all they have to say about their offense. I mean, their running backs are old and washed up. David Johnson, Mark Ingram, and Philip Lindsay. And the offensive line is garbage too. I just don't see how they're going to come even close to 4 games. I like your bet a lot. The question is, what kind of spreads are they going to be going up against?
I was just going to say, it's like the Dolphins 2 years ago. It's going to be, it's going to be like plus 21 points or plus 17 points in the opening of the season. I mean, we tried to go with that a couple times. And early in the season, the Dolphins couldn't even cover those numbers. But later in the season, they started picking up form. So we'll have to see.
Yeah, I mean, week 1 is going to be fascinating. You've got the Jaguars going on the road as favorites to Houston. So that'll tell us a lot, I think, after that week 1 game.
That's right. Okay, well, let's go to the AFC West to close out the AFC. You've got the Chiefs, of course, 12.5 wins is the projected total, minus 350 to win the division, plus 250 for the AFC, and plus 475 for the title. Obviously, that's the overall favorite for the title and the AFC. I love the Chiefs. I'm on the Chiefs bandwagon. I love Mahomes. I've got my jersey and his helmet in there, autographed and everything. But 12.5 is still a lot of wins, even with a 17-game season. And it's pretty heavy odds for the division. Would you back? You wouldn't back any of these numbers, huh?
No, I don't think. I mean, obviously Kansas City is going to be awesome, but I certainly don't think I would be going over 12.5 wins. If you made me bet that gun to head, I would bet under every time.
Right. That's just too big. Well, let's talk about some of the other teams in this division because I think it's a little more intriguing. Our beloved Chargers. I don't know if you're still on board with the Chargers because I am. 9.5 wins. The total projected plus 550 for the division, plus 1,600 for the AFC, and plus 3,300 for the title. They have new coach Brandon Staley. I really like this hire. We talked all about it last season. Anthony Lynn can't coach. He proved it over and over again in the 2 seasons he was coach. Lost so many games by 1 score, and most of them when they blew the lead. Last year, I mean, they had obviously the rookie of the year in what's his name?
Herbert.
Justin Herbert, the man. And so now they're sitting here with a defensive-minded coach with a great defense on paper. I like this team. I didn't pick them to actually make the playoffs. I think that 9-10 is right on the cusp. I think that's a good number for the win total. But I could possibly get on plus 550 for the division. I mean, if the Chiefs may have an issue or Mahomes gets hurt, they can win this division.
Maybe. I have question marks on the defensive side of the ball, personally. I just don't think that these big-name stars have lived up to their potential. And maybe Staley can get, he is a defensive coach, right? I think he was, he comes from the McVay tree. And, of course, everyone that coaches with McVay is obviously an NFL candidate. So, I mean, on offense, they're going to be great. I have no doubt. Although I wouldn't be surprised to see Herbert have a little bit of a sophomore slump also. And the difference this season is that I expect they're going to be favorites in a lot of games. And so the win total is one thing, but like when we're talking season-long contest picks, I think it's going to be hard for us to be looking at the Chargers every week because they're going to be laying points instead of taking them.
Yeah, 2.5. Just so you know, Brandon Staley came from the Vic Fangio tree on defense. Then he went and coached for the Rams. He was the defensive coordinator last year, and they're a great year. So that's why he got the job. But yes, totally McVay. Now, I hear what you're saying. They're probably going to be 2.5, 3.5 point favorites every week. Can we take that? Probably not. Whereas in the past, we were always like taking the points and we're like, come on, Chargers. And then they blow the game in the last, field goal or something at the end of the game every time. So,
yeah.
Well, what about Vic Fangio's team, the Broncos, 8.5 on the win total projected, plus 700 on the division, plus 1,100 AFC, plus 4,000 in the title. Looks like you like the 8.5 on the over. I tend to agree. I think this is a 9-win team. Have you already put some money on the line for that?
Yeah, minus 110, 8.5. Just put it in right before we logged on today.
Look at this guy. Nice work. Yeah, I think that this team, I don't love Bridgewater, but we know what he did. He covers lines, doesn't he, Action? When he was in Carolina, do you think he's actually going to start or are they going to put Locke in there?
No, Teddy Bridgewater, named starter by Coach Vic Fangio. So he's made his move. I'm not sure I agree with it at this point. I think that Drew Locke maybe gave them a little bit more potential, but I'm guessing that Fangio made this move because he knows what his team is on the other side of the ball. I'm projecting that the Broncos are going to be the number one defense in the league. And when you have a quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, who doesn't turn the ball over and just keeps his team in every game, I think that's the reason he made the move.
So what you're saying, though, is people are not just listening about football here, but when you look at the Broncos, you're going to see a lot of totals. You're going to like a lot of unders with Denver involved.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a great pick, too. I mean, looking at this defense, and then on the opposite side, you've got Teddy Bridgewater, who doesn't really like to throw the ball down the field. You can see them in a lot of close, low-scoring games.
All right. You heard it here. The last team are the Las Vegas Raiders. 7 wins is the projected total, plus 2,000 for the division, plus 4,000 for the AFC, and plus 7,000 for the title. It's interesting how the bloom has come off the rose for this team. I agree with this. I don't think they're that good of a football team. It's interesting how the fall off goes very quick for this division, because last year, they were basically in the playoffs and then they just lost out the last few games. And this team won a lot of games early and kind of cratered. Josh Jacobs is not getting a lot of love now. They're talking about split backfield, but I don't like Derek Carr, but he played pretty good last season. So why do you think there's been kind of a turn for the Raiders in terms of the books?
Yeah, that's a great question. Their offense is certainly going to be pretty good this year. I think top 15 is probably their average on the season. Henry Ruggs was good last year. Darren Waller turned out to be an incredible weapon. Like, you could pencil him in for 12 catches every game. But I think the question mark is on the defensive side. Again, they didn't really do much of anything at all to improve on that side of the ball, and they gave up points in bunches last season. And I expect that's part of the reason why you're seeing the odds makers put them at the bottom. I also think that there's some question marks about the home field advantage in Las Vegas this year. Last season there was no fans, but this season I know that you Chicagoans and the Philadelphians and the Ravens fans are all lining up to buy tickets because I've been looking at the ticket prices. And I think they're going to be all away games.
No, you're right. I know that all of my friends, including, Matt at Four Shadows and everybody, they already planned their trip. They're going in October. So that it's going to be Soldier Field West out there for the Bears game when they played them. So you're right. I think you got something there. But maybe there could be like the whole Miami hangover situation, depending on how people control the curfew for the players. And that always could be something.
Valid.
Let's jump to our picks for the AFC since it makes sense. So what I like is the Chiefs over the Browns in the AFC title game. It looks like Action likes the Ravens over the Chiefs, which I've been wanting that matchup for 2 years and it hasn't happened.
Yeah, the Ravens always crap the bed before they get there. But I think this is their year. Lamar Jackson and Coach Harbaugh are going to bring them to the AFC title.
All right. We'll see. I still think it'll probably be a little bit of a repeat of last year, but the Bills, and I like the Bills. I just think that the Bills may lose out a little earlier. We'll see. I'm just higher on the Browns than most, I suppose. Let's jump to the NFC now. We'll start at the top again. NFC East, we've got the Cowboys at the top of the division with a 9-win projected total, plus 150 for the division, plus 1,500 for the NFC, and plus 3,300 for the title. Now, I don't know if you're watching Hard Knocks, but this team can't win a game in the season. Doesn't mean much. But you know how I feel about Mike McCarthy. I'm on record that he should have been a one-year coach because I think he's garbage. But I will contend, and I've said it for 2 years, the Cowboys have immense talent on both sides of the ball. They have made a change in defensive coordinator, I believe, and obviously they get Dak Prescott back, and all accounts, he looks pretty damn good. Do you like the Cowboys to win this division?
No, I'm with you on the next team here. I think that the Cowboys' offense is going to be good, but it really all hinges on the health of Dak Prescott. And
right.
I haven't seen him suit up in preseason. I'm sure there's good reason for that. He's recovering from a nasty injury last season, but I'm wondering what his mobility is going to be like after the leg injury from last year. And
right.
He certainly has the capability to keep them in every game. But I also, like you, think that Mike McCarthy is a bet against coach, and I think we should pencil them in for on the fade list for our contest purposes.
But what about the mojo play? Do you like mojo plays? Have you watched Hard Knocks at all?
No. Can you explain?
He pulls this reference from like Austin Powers, which nobody on the field knows. He's like, okay, mojo. He's like, you need mojo, and he's trying to like momentum plays or whatever. But it's so funny. They kept destroying it on the radio when they played it like on Sirius to talk about the next day. Like, if nobody knows who Austin Powers is, but anyway.
That's funny.
Let's go to the second team. That's the Washington football team. 8.5 win total, plus 220 on the division, plus 2,500 for the NFC, plus 5,000 for the title. I love this team. I'm in love with this team. I love the defense so much. I like the over 8.5 wins, and I love them to win the division at plus 220. I'm also going to put a little piece of money on the plus 2,500 to win the NFC. I know that Ryan Fitzpatrick hasn't done crap in the playoffs, but at that number, with that defense, why not? I mean, in the NFC is a little more wide open than the AFC in my view.
Yeah, I think I love it. I love all those calls. I didn't add it on here, but I also have a division ticket at a little bit higher number. I think that Fitzpatrick was a masterstroke. He's going to come in there and instantly give this offense some life. And you can't say enough about the defense. I think they're going to be top 2-3 unit in the league this season. So I think the Washington team is definitely the team to beat in the East. Yeah,
absolutely. Let's get to the other two teams, which to me are not good. The Giants, 7 wins is the total, plus 375 division, plus 330 or 3,300 for NFC, plus 10,000. I like under this total for sure for the Giants. I don't really see what people are thinking. I know that means they have to lose 11 games. 11 games, right? Or at least push with the 10. I just don't see this team winning a lot of games. I don't like Daniel Jones. I've been on record for 2 years on that. But the Eagles also, 6.5 win total, plus 500 for the division, plus 4,000 for the NFC, plus 9,000 for the title with their new coach, Nick Sirianni, who had the worst press conference opener I've ever seen. These two teams are not good. I don't know what to say. The Eagles last year, we thought they could win the division with Wentz, and then they just putzed around and they stunk. The Giants kind of defied the odds and won some games early, but to me, with the Cowboys back, both these teams at least lose 2 more games than last year. So that's why I like these teams to be at the bottom.
Yeah, I think these are both great calls. I especially am going to be looking to go against the Giants as much as possible. They have the worst offensive line, and Daniel Jones has proven he has some mobility, but he does not do well under pressure. And so I think specifically I'm going to be looking for matchups where a defensive line, like the Washington football team, are going up against this putrid Giants line, and that's going to be a pick for me every time. So I'm with you there. And the Eagles, similarly, nothing really to talk about with them.
Right. I guess I failed to mention Saquon Barkley is back for the Giants, but Galladay, he's come up where he's not even playing yet, I don't think, in preseason. The Eagles they've gone with Jalen Hurts, but then they just, they have Flacco, and then they picked up
Minshew.
Minshew. I mean, it's weird. I don't know what's going on with that team. I don't know. I'm sure Sirianni's probably a sharp guy, but he didn't seem very sharp in his press conference. I don't love the way he's taken his team, but we'll see. I think these teams are going to be bet against for me.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go to the NFC North, my beloved division. The Packers are projected for 10 wins this season, minus 177 on the division, plus 550 for the NFC, and plus 1,200 for the title. I know you like this team. Little precursor to what we'll say later. 10 wins is probably about right. It's 11. Is probably where they're going to sit. Obviously, we had all the drama with Rodgers in the offseason. He's back though, so to me, they're going to win the division. That's why it's minus 177. Did they address the issues that they faced against the Bucs though? And defensively, can they stop the run? I'm not sure, but in this division, I don't know if it matters.
Yeah, I mean, I think the defense is going to be a little bit improved this year, so I do think that they could take that step that they need to. And on the other side, I mean, the offense is just absolutely stacked. Aaron Rodgers is going to be ready to roll, but I like the running back position. I think that both Jones and Dillon are going to be mashers, moving the ball for the Packers. And the wideouts, I mean, they don't really have any names outside of Devontae Adams, but Aaron Rodgers is going to get his pay.
Yeah, he will. So then you've got like two teams that are really close, I guess. I think the Vikings will take a step ahead, but the Vikings have a nine-win total projection, plus 300 for the division, plus 2,200 for the NFC, plus 4,000 for the title. The Bears are 7.5 win total, plus 550 for the division, again, plus 2,200 for NFC, and plus 6,000 for the title. You like the Vikings over the 9 wins.
Yeah, I did bet this one earlier in the preseason. Again, theme here, it has to do with their defense, not Kirk Cousins.
Right, no, of course.
I mean, they were certainly under-impressive throughout the preseason, but when you look back at some of those box scores, they didn't really play any of their starters. And so I think that the linebacking core, Eric Kendricks and Anthony Barr, are going to be stellar this season, and they have that defensive end, Danielle Hunter, who has been really stepping up the last couple of seasons. And I think it's the Vikings defense that is going to help them win games this year and not the offense.
Well, they picked up Patrick Peterson. They swapped out corners. And I know that Zimmer, he wasn't pleased with their corner play last year. On the other side with the Bears, so I agree with you. I don't know about the 9 wins or not. I think they're right around that for me in my projection. But they're going to be better than the Bears. And, it's a shame for the Bears. Obviously, I'm on record about they should fire Pace. That's for another podcast. But they traded up to get Fields. That's great. They overpaid Dalton. Don't know. Dalton's named the starter. I get it for a couple of weeks, but this offensive line isn't that good. And, they need to run the ball to win, especially in Chicago in December. Defense should be better, theoretically, but I don't love the corners, to be honest with you. And in this division, you've got to have good corners, especially against the Packers and the Vikings. So, I agree with this assessment of 7.5, or I'd go under the 7.5 if I had to bet it, but, it's a pretty good number for them.
Interesting. I will certainly defer to your take on the Bears, but I have to ask you, how do you feel about Justin Fields? Are you interested in he being the starter sooner than later, or would you prefer they hold off?
I think they should just start him, period. I don't know why they would wait. I think they overpaid Dalton. I think the reason why they're starting him is because they paid Dalton. Now maybe it's trying to save Fields because he's going to be running for his life. But if you've seen him in the preseason games, he's had a lot of rushing because he's running for his life. Dalton's going to get crushed in the first game or two, and they're going to have to go to Fields just purely to get the ball out. I do like him. I think he's good. I mean, I hope he kind of beats the curse of Ohio State Buckeye quarterbacks. That's for you, Mikey. And they haven't been good in the NFL. But I think he's got all the tools to be good. I just don't love that they didn't address, and of course they address a lineman in the draft, and the guy gets hurt. He's out with back surgery for probably the whole season. They knew about it. I don't understand that selection, but I digress. Let's talk about your local Lions. 4.5 wins projected, plus 2,500 for the division. Ouch. Plus 8,000 for the NFC, plus 17,500 for the title. Hey, just put a little dollar on there. Never know. I like under this total wins, 4.5. I think the Lions are the second worst team in the league. Yes, Dan Campbell comes in. Doesn't matter. This roster sucks. Looks like you have an alt-win total under 3.5, plus 205. Did you bet it?
No, I haven't bet that one yet. I do have an under 5 bet months ago, and I just don't. It starts with the coach. I think that Dan Campbell is probably the worst hire in all of the newbies this season, and he just doesn't really seem to get it. He's just focused on like this rah-rah cheerleader mentality, and I'm not sure that's going to play well with the professionals here in Detroit. And and outside of that, the offense, Jared Goff is serviceable, but he doesn't have anyone to throw it to. I think their number one wide receiver is Tyrell Williams, and that's really not going to get much done in the league these days.
Well, they cut Rashad Perryman today, didn't they?
I saw that.
It's baffling to me. We should have mentioned that the big Lions, there was a big trade. Obviously, Stafford leaves, drafted by the Lions number 1 years ago. They bring in Jared Goff. We know Jared Goff. He's not good. He's okay. But, yeah, you're right. It was wholesale changes in the offseason, getting rid of everybody. So it's a team that's set up to tank. And beyond, DeAndre Swift, who's a pretty good running back, and T.J. Hawkinson, who's a good tight end, I don't know who they throw to. So it's going to be a long season for the Lions. So I'll go with you 4.5 under, or you got 5. That's even better. All right, NFC South, we've got the Bucs, and they were obviously the champions last year. 12 wins on the total, minus 200 to win the division, plus 300 to win the NFC, plus 650 to win the title. That's the second favorite for the title, and title for the NFC. So, my biggest thing about the win total and the Bucs are, you obviously have Tom Brady, who's incredible, and he's defied age. Is this the year? You know what I mean? At some point, they brought back the whole team. Everybody signed up again. I get it. They got hot at the right time. They ran the table. The Saints should have beat them on record. Anyway, they won the title. They did it. They were great. They're going to be good again. But can they find that perfect mix of mercenary and age on this team? I don't. So I'm a bet against, not every game, but at least in the futures, I would go against the Bucs. I didn't put any in, but I would say against.
Yeah, I mean, I've stopped trying to predict the demise of Tom Brady. I think I probably mentioned it here several times before, and every time he proves me wrong. But, I mean, their offense is going to be really good again, despite their age across the board with Antonio Brown and Brady. But they have other outstanding wideouts, too. And I think their offensive line is really what is the linchpin for the offense. I mean, they really protect Brady, and they can run the ball, too, which is important. And on the flip side, their defense is going to be good, too. So I have a hard time picking against them. I do think that they're going to be a team that we could look to fade where they're laying some big numbers. They had a hard time covering those big touchdown plus spreads last year, too.
Right. Good call. So the rest of the division is really baffling to me. I guess we'll talk about the Saints by themselves. The Saints are projected at a 9-win total, plus 350 in the division, plus 1,600 for the NFC, and plus 3,000 for the title. Remember, this team did win the division last year. They obviously lose Drew Brees. They named Jameis the starter, probably the right move. But Michael Thomas is on the PUP list. Obviously the defense is really good. I think that's what's going to carry this team. So that 9 wins seems about right, 9 or 10 for me. It's just strange. I don't know. I mean, I think people are fading the Saints maybe a little too hard, but I can't get on board with major futures on this team.
Yeah, I agree. This is probably one of the toughest teams for me to predict in the offseason, and that's probably mostly due to Jameis Winston. He played well in a couple of games last season, and he's looked good in the preseason, but when the lights are really on him, it's going to be incredibly interesting to see if he reverts back to his old form or if he can actually be more of a game manager, which I expect Sean Payton is asking. So
yeah, exactly.
It's going to be a fascinating team to watch, without a doubt.
Right. Now, the last two teams, I am going to lump them together, the Falcons and the Panthers. Falcons have a projected 7 wins, Panthers 7.5. We've got longer odds, plus 800 for the division for the Falcons, plus 3,000 for the NFC, and plus 8,000 for the title, which those last two numbers match up for the Panthers, but plus 1,100 for the division. There's a new coach. Obviously, Arthur Smith is the coach for the Falcons. They lose Julio Jones, but they pick up, Kyle Pitts, this rookie tight end who looks like a beast. But I don't think the defense is any good for the Falcons. On the flip side, the Panthers went out. They got Sam Darnold, the reclamation project from the Jets. But I don't know, man. That team is weird. I like under for that 7.5. I think they're going to be okay. I don't really trust Darnold. But I do trust Rule more than I do Arthur Smith. So maybe I'm wrong on that assessment.
Yeah, I think that I agree. I would probably lean to the Panthers between these two teams at the bottom of the division. But, the Falcons are going to be interesting, too, with Kyle Pitts out there. Matt Ryan certainly has the acumen, and I would expect that he's going to be looking for Pitts a lot this year. But the defense is certainly going to hold him down.
It's interesting. You've got two really good defenses in this division and two not so good defenses. So it's going to be tough to predict those games. Well, let's go to the NFC West. This is the loaded division in this conference. The 49ers are at the top, 12 wins projected total, plus 200 for the division, plus 650 for the NFC, plus 1,400 for the title. I actually like this team a lot. This is my team this year. This is my team that I'm trying to get on board with. I like them at the plus 200 for the division and for the NFC at plus 650. I see them in the Super Bowl, little preview. I'd put some money on the title at plus 1,400 because of the teams at the top, this is the best value. We talk about that a little bit more on a weekly basis, but it's pretty good value for a team that should have won the title 2 years ago, probably.
Yeah. And last year they had just terrible injury luck, especially on defense. It seemed like every week they were losing another defensive player, but still had a really great season despite those injuries. So I'm with you. I also bet them to win this division, and I may look at that Super Bowl odds as well. But I think that Jimmy G under center is going to have a good season as well, holding off the rookie quarterback. And I like the Niners.
How long do you think before he loses the job, though? Do you think Lance will play or not? Do you think he'll play on the bench the whole year?
I've been reading that they're planning to do some dual quarterback packages, which I kind of question, especially in this league. I'm not sure that the gadget quarterback is really going to be helpful at all. In fact, I think it's just going to serve to hurt Jimmy G. But I think once Shanahan realizes that's a bad idea, they're going to be with Jimmy G throughout this season, barring some sort of injury, of course. Right.
So the other teams are really good in this division. The Rams are a bit of a darling for most people. 10 wins on the projected total, plus 200 for the division, which is even with the Niners, plus 650 for the NFC, and plus 1,400 for the title, almost equivalent to the Niners across the board, except for the win total. And obviously this is probably due to Stafford. This is a team that played very well last year with Jared Goff. They lost Staley as the defensive coordinator, but they have the same personnel. I just need to see Stafford do it. I don't trust him, man. I don't know. He hasn't played he's never won a playoff game, never really played in a big game, even in college. So I am fading the Rams, not hardcore on these numbers, but there's a lot of love for this team to win the Super Bowl, at least get there.
Yeah. What do you think about Sony Michel being an addition to that backfield? They lost the second-year running back to the Achilles injury, and so they bring in Sony Michel. Any thoughts there?
No, I think he's going to help. I don't really think that's why. Look, McVay's running schemes are great. Every back has done well in that scheme. It's really a matter of timely throws, making great throws in critical situations. We know the defense is going to be really good here. So it's just playing. Last year, I actually thought Goff played decent in the second half against the Packers, but they got outclassed by the Packers in that game. So is Stafford really going to be the answer there? I don't think so. But for some reason, odds makers, or at least the public, really likes the Rams, and I'm against them.
Okay. Yeah, Stafford is going to be really interesting to see if he pulls out those same interceptions in back-breaking situations that he always threw with the Lions.
Always. And then you get the Seahawks, again, same projected win total, 10 wins, plus 275 for the division, plus 1,200 for the NFC, and plus 2,200 for the title. You've noted the schedule. You want to go over that?
Yeah, Seattle has the number one ranked pass defenses scheduled this season. So Russell Wilson and company will be going up against the toughest slate of opposing pass defenses. And this is a team that I'm interested in fading. I know that Russ is amazing, and he always keeps them in games, the season, what have you. But I think that their time is up. They've been winning too many close games recently, and I think it swings the other way this season.
I agree with you. I actually have them missing the playoffs for the first time in a minute, and they also, I just think that the other teams are just a little better, and we'll talk about the Cardinals in a minute, but the Rams are super good, 49ers are great, and then if you have them playing tough defenses outside the division, this team's going to struggle. I know that Ridgeway doesn't like us talking about that, but I just think it's true, and I don't like the defense very much on this team. I think that Jamal Adams, I loved him as a player coming out, but he's become a blitzing safety. He doesn't cover anybody. And in this league, you have to be able to cover. It's not all about the blitz, and especially even in this division, they can hit you for big plays. So I'm with you on the fate of the Seahawks. The last team is the Cardinals, 8.5 win total, plus 600 on the division, plus 1,800 for the NFC, plus 4,000 for the title. I actually think this total is a little low. I think this team's good. I don't know if it's, again, this is one of these teams, they're not quite the same, but like the Bengals, if this team was in, say, even the north of the NFC, they'd win a lot more games. I mean, this is a solid team. Offensively, we know if Kyler Murray's healthy, they'll be really good. The defense, I think, got better. We'll see. But I just believe in those kind of ascending teams, and I think the Cardinals are one of those. They should have made the playoffs last year, too. They kind of stumbled on the stretch.
Yeah. My heart really wants the Cardinals to be good this year, but I just have questions about the scheme on offense and Coach Kingsbury, to be honest. Yeah. I think that they run too much of a predictable offense, and last season especially they were reliant on Kyler Murray's legs in too many crucial situations. Sure. And I think they're either going to have to adapt or they're going to be in a middling to struggling type of season this year. So the defense is kind of middle of the road for me, but I think the question is really whether or not Kingsbury and the offense breaks out of their little shell that they're in.
So he should spend more time doing film work, less time entertaining at his palatial, bachelor pad that he's got.
Yeah, certainly, definitely.
Okay, so let's review the NFC picks. I have the Niners over the Bucs. You have the Packers over the Bucs. Makes sense. The Packers have been there a couple times, have missed. I just like the Niners to rebound, and we both like the Bucs to be knocked off. There you go. Mm-hmm. And for the Super Bowl, I like the Chiefs over 49ers. It's a repeat of a couple years ago. It's kind of lame, but I think it's possible. You see the Ravens taking out the Packers.
Yep, Baltimore all the way this year.
All right. Did you already bet them on the futures, or I know you don't love futures?
No, I haven't made any Super Bowl bets yet.
I gotcha. Okay, well that wraps up our NFL preview. Lengthy. Sorry guys, we're going to try to keep it shorter this year, but not on the preview episode. But let's review what's happening September 10th to the 12th. First of all, we want to thank our loyal listeners that have been with us from the beginning. This is our 100th episode. It's amazing that we've done that. It's kind of crazy, really. But I will tell you that if you do come to Vegas with us, I'm going to give you one of these T-shirts. We got these great T-shirts. Side Action Podcast. I'll bring the bag. We've got, obviously, Action's got his shirt. We'll give it out to you. There's only a couple people that are coming, but we'll see what happens. But we'll be there the 10th to the 12th. The big day is at Circa Stadium Swim on the 11th, which is college football Saturday, and we haven't predetermined where we're going on the 12th for the NFL games, but we'll definitely find a home.
Yeah, back to Stadium Swim, our home away from home. I think we were there in March to watch college basketball, and now it's college football this time around, and it's always a good time to see all of the folks out and watching games on the biggest sports screen that you've seen in America.
Yeah, I mean, we definitely want to see Prime in action. He obviously made a friend last time. I'm hoping he can make new friends this time. And we've got our buddy Dempsey, who he got comped by Circa on the trip, so we're pretty excited. So we're a 4-man crew. We've got some other guys I've talked to about the trip, and I think there's some volleyball guys that'll be out there, so maybe we'll meet up with them at Stadium Swim on Saturday. And again, that's the 11th of September. So excited for the season, that's for sure. It's great to dust it off. We haven't been talking about 4 months or something, so it's great to get back on the air.
Yeah, 100 episodes, and we'll be looking to turn the page and hopefully turn that 100 episodes into $1 million after we win the Circa contest.
$1 million holla, right? Then maybe I'll pay for the cabana, okay?
Next year.
Next year, right, when we get the payout. All right, well, thanks everybody for following us. Follow us at Side Action Pod on Twitter. Follow me at Wegspool on Twitter and Instagram.
Follow me on Twitter at 31sroberts.
All right, everybody. Thanks for listening.
That's a wrap for this episode of the Side Action Podcast. We appreciate all of your listens and thank you for joining us. We'll see you all again next week on Thursday for some more hot picks and side action. Side Action Podcast, its owners and associates take no responsibility for the opinions or statements made by the show hosts or their guests. Statements or show topics are not necessarily the beliefs of this podcast, and opinions between talk show hosts may conflict. Individuals following the advice given on the podcast accept their own risk of losses from wagers made. As the Side Action Podcast, its owners, hosts, associates, or guests will not guarantee any advice given. The opinions and advice given on the Side Action Podcast is for entertainment purposes only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Intro and outro and transition music credits. Song titles Jerry 5 and District 4 by Kevin MacLeod at incompetech.org. Licensed under Creative Commons Attribution 3.0. creativecommons.org/licenses/by 3.0.